Hi, everybody. I'm J.O. I'm the author of Maximize Your Medicare. This book, somewhere. There you go. Anyway, the official website for the book is there up there at the top of your screen, www.maximizeyourmedicare.com. And what I'll do is I'll show you webpage. Yep, there we go. There's the webpage for the book. You can scroll down. You'll see a couple of interesting things down here. Number one is, links to podcasts, YouTube, and you can ask me your questions here on Ask Jay. Down here are Medicare premiums, which include the IRMA tables, which are the surcharges. What happens if for higher income people, you are charged more for Medicare Part B, as well as for your prescription drug benefits. Those tables are here. This is the standardized Medigap plans. And down here are some official links. And none of those are advertisements, et cetera, et cetera. What they are the official links to official information given to you by the government. Lastly, and very importantly, is there's the place to sign up for the newsletter here. So it's free. You can get the free version. There's also a premium version. So what happens is if you buy the book and you send me an email and say, Jay, I bought your book, then there's also a premium edition where I give additional insights to the ones that I'm going to show here today. So let's go to that, and there's the newsletter here. If you enroll or if you subscribe to the newsletter, here's what you get. Usually comes out once a week. And I thought we would go through the latest edition. And here we go. So we've got a summer special, which is if you know someone who's turning 65 through the rest of the year, I'm going to send you this book. All you need to do is you need to send me an email. Email address is down there at the bottom of your screen, j@maximizeyourmedicare.com. Right? You're going to tell me the name of your friend. Your friend is going to reach out. And when they reach out to me, I'm going to send you the book. And I'm going to pay for shipping. Okay? So your friend gets to read the book online. So I have access, or I'm going to give you your friend special permission to see the book actually online. Your friend has no obligations. In other words, they can choose to become a client of mine. They don't have to. I'm happy to help on this matter. There is no charge for pure brokerage. If you have a very complicated situation, I would have to tell you in advance. Okay. Nevertheless, your friend can choose to do as they wish. I'm going to send you the book anyway. Okay. And there's a reason for that, which is quite simply, that's against the rules. I face very substantial number of rules as a person who's in insurance, someone affiliated with all the carriers and with the CMS, etc. In other words, we've got to, even though I'm not part of the government, absolutely need to tell you this. Point is that I can't give you a gift if and only if that person becomes a client. You get the book anyway. Over the last week, I created this YouTube video, which really was a video that had to do with, a presentation I made in front of a college. And the college was one of these continuing education consortiums. You can know that your local college, very widely available. And I created the video, and the video really is something that can be shared with all age divisions. And it's actually more important than the book itself. If I had to tell you about all the misunderstandings of financial stuff generally, it begins right at the beginning. I mean, people don't have the basics correct. They have a fundamental misunderstanding. And so you can understand, you start off on the wrong foot and then you pile on additional skepticism, dislike for advertisement, war stories, and happy hour. And then all of a sudden, you stop considering financial solutions. You stop considering what to actually do, that there are actually things that actually would help you, But because of your discouragement and the fact that you had the wrong notion to start out, you end up throwing it straight into the garbage bin. You can do that. You're the consumer ultimately. Nevertheless, the person who gets hurt by that process is you. And that's even just for a single financial product that happens. Now, my role as financial planner is actually to take the consolidated set, kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. And one piece, yes, I can explain it to you, but really where I'm adding to you is the combination of pieces. And that's what the video is about. Those two things, about why people get started off on the wrong foot, and then give you some illustrations, and then how the pieces fit together and how that's going to evolve over time. And for that reason, it's kind of the same video that I would show a 26-year-old. On here is the Medicare section, and this is an important thing. June 30th is an important day in Medicare land. And the reason is COVID-19 created, obviously, a crazy situation in our society. What it also did is that the CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, they created something called the special enrollment period. That ends on June 30th. June 30th. That's just a couple of weeks away. So there are 5 things you can do. I've been trying to tell people on the newsletter of what those 5 things were. You can switch across Medicare Advantage plans if you are unhappy or if you think another plan will give you better benefits. Number 2, you can cancel your Medicare Advantage plan and return to Medicare Part A and Part B. Number 3 is if you did do that, you can enroll in a standalone prescription plan. Okay. Number 4, if you've missed your Medicare Part B enrollment period and Part A enrollment period for whatever reason, now's your time. You can enroll in Medicare now. Normally that period ended on March 30th, but due to COVID-19, extended to June 30th. Last, let's say you've canceled your Medicare Advantage plan, and the reason is that you want to get Medigap. You can still do that, but for most of you, that means that you need to get past medical underwriting. And it's for this reason that if this were your motivation, that you need to go to try to apply for Medigap immediately. Because what I don't want for anyone to do is to apply for Medigap, not get accepted, and have already canceled your Medicare Advantage plan. Then July 1st comes and you don't have Medigap, and you don't have Medicare Advantage. So it's a lot of times on this newsletter, I've been trying to tell people the order matters here. If you're trying to switch from Medicare Advantage to Medigap, the order in which you proceed matters. Has to be done carefully. This section here is, kind of educational about the background, information about the background, Medicare, health insurance, politics, budget. This is a very unfun soup. I'm not going to kid you. It's unfun soup. And the reality is most of it doesn't really matter to you, right? If you're on Medicare, if you're on Medicare enrollee, yeah, you're going to hear about lots of noise and lots of politicians saying this or that. The reality is what you care about. The thing that I'm trying to get people to focus on are, what are your options as a Medicare beneficiary? Does this provide you the health care coverage that you need, access to the health care providers you need? Does it provide it to you at the lowest possible cost? That's my job, right? That's why I wrote the book. That's what my clients around the country are asking me to do in order to fit them, right? That said, it's inevitable that people think about the future. People think about the future. And one way of thinking about it, and a number of years ago, people used to be thinking that Medicare Advantage would go away, that Medicare Advantage would decline, and die. And the reality is that during the first edition of Maximize Your Medicare, the comparison between Medigap and Medicare Advantage, it wasn't particularly close. Not particularly close. And the simple reason is that Medicare Advantage had a large number of issues. The networks were a fragmented mess still. The prescription drug coverage not only had the deductibles, but didn't really offer a huge saving compared to Part D. And then there was also the premium. You would have Medicare Advantage plans with multiple $100 a month of premium, or over $150 a month premium, $100 a month premium. This was common. In other words, even the premiums were not at a very big, were not superior to Medigap, not by much. Well, we scroll to 2020, and the world is widely, incredibly different, right? In almost every location, you can find a Medicare Advantage plan that costs $0. The premium is zero. You still have to enroll in Part A and Part B. Prescription drug costs under Medicare Advantage plans can be notably lower than under a standalone prescription plan. Not many people know this. But for example, you know that insulin, very expensive, commonly prescribed. Certain Medicare Advantage plans have insulin at a $0 copay, right? In other words, the point is that the landscape has changed a lot. And in fact, Steve Forbes, inside of Forbes magazine, and if you go onto the website here, let's just click here real quickly. We're not going to go through the entire article. I don't want to there's not a reading lesson from me to you, but you can see it here. Steve Forbes is giving this some opinion about the fact that actually Medicare Advantage could be a possible path towards solving our overall healthcare cost issue. And that is potentially true. And the simple reason is, the reason that Medicare Advantage plan, that's the part of what my observations are here. Part of the reason here is that the reason that Medicare Advantage plans have become so much better is that competitive forces have basically forced the carriers. They forced the carriers to improve notably, right? So now there's a third, something like 20 million Medicare Advantage policyholders, 20 million. And the CEOs of Medicare Advantage plan carriers, they're thinking it's going to approach 50. And I'd probably say that that's about right. So on one hand, you talk about competition is enormous and fierce. No question about it. You're, as 60 million voters, very, very important, and just recently been overtaken by the millennials. On the other hand, on the back end, what you're not seeing, what you don't see, is the Medicare Advantage carriers are going to all the hospitals and going to the doctors and healthcare providers and saying, if you have an office visit, we're going to pay you X dollars. We're going to pay you Y dollars. And they're squeezing has the necessary, they're getting more efficient execution, right? So in other words, they're facing competition from their fellow Medicare Advantage carriers. They've got to get this money in efficiencies. Where are they getting it? They're getting it by putting their weight on the healthcare providers. And therefore, the beneficiary of that is you, the Medicare Advantage policyholder. So this article is saying, look, why don't we just keep extending it to persons who are not 65? And therefore, the question being, is Medicare Advantage, the fact of Medicare Advantage, is that the key to all of healthcare system savings? Possibly. Now, don't get me wrong. The other guys in the room, the other stakeholders are going to not necessarily agree. And they are big and they are credible. Whenever I speak in public, I'll say so out loud. Solving the healthcare system is not that simple. Why? Because you have enormous stakeholders. And these enormous stakeholders have a logical point to their positions. That's not the dumb guy in the room. It isn't. The body of hospitals, the body of doctors, the body of large pharmaceuticals. What every one of them is totally wrong. Can't be that simple. The issue, and as a result, is pulling them all together onto the same page then becomes, triply, quadruply, I'm sure that's not a word, difficult. But Medicare Advantage could. Why? Because its constituency today is 20 million. It's so large as the consumer base. Just maybe. We already know that politics is not probably going to provide a solution, right? On social media, in addition to this, YouTube, podcast, website, as I've said to you, I'm on Instagram. I've created a hashtag called Medicare Minute, real quick ones, right? Somebody sends me emails, as many people have, ask me a random question about their particular situation. Don't worry, I'm not going to give them your name, your full name, and your mailing address. But basically what I do is say, here's a particular situation, and in less than 1 minute, try to answer the question. So you can see it down there, Max Your Medicare. That's the Instagram handle, I guess. Handle, is that the right word? I think it is. Podcasts. I showed you on the Maximize Your Medicare, the homepage for the book, that there are podcasts available, and you can see all the different locations that you can see the Maximize Your Medicare podcast. Let's take a quick look here. There you go. There's the iPage. There's the iTunes, or I guess it's called Apple Podcast now. That's the page. It's up here on Spotify. Yep, there we go. So you can please subscribe to their something like 119 podcasts. Very important to stay up to date, though, because as I said about 2013 to 2020, how things have changed. Same thing. The information on the podcast can become dated, right? There are changes. And they're going to be coming on an ongoing basis. I don't think there's any doubt about that. There is a Facebook group. Maximize Your Medicare is the name. Yes, very similar to that of the book. It's a closed group. So there's a page, there's a Facebook community. The reason for the community is because there's so many headlines, so many opinions out there. There's no possible way that I'm able to create a video or create a newsletter or change the book to address every single one. But inside there, I'm giving on insights on the headlines. So the other day there was a matter about COVID-19 testing. And the fact of the matter is that COVID-19 testing is only good for those persons with symptoms, not for asymptomatic, meaning that the health insurance carriers are going to charge $0 for COVID-19 testing if you have symptoms. Asymptomatic, still unresolved. That can all be commented. You'll see my comments on this and those types of topics live as they come across, and I get my attention in the 5 minutes to type my comments. So Medicare, as you could see, and you can see from the Life's a Gamble YouTube video, is part of one set, and it's a small part. Ultimately, we are controlled and grabbing the headlines. I'm going to make comments on certain matters without being partisan about it. The person in the front here, so that's why I said up at the top here, at the top of the newsletter, hate your job, you ain't seen nothing. Okay. I think we can agree. It doesn't matter what your politics are. Really doesn't. I think we can agree. Fed Chairman Bob Powell, not a job that you really want. And let's take a look here at some of what he's been actually forced to kind of say and look very peculiar to people who are, watching. So at the end of February, the Federal Reserve is increasing interest rates. That was the path. May 17th, because of COVID-19, described the pandemic a level of pain hard to capture in words. Now he gets a pass, right? Nobody could have predicted, or no one predicted that this would be the time that COVID-19 would strike. There are, of course, many people know this, there have been predictions about a pandemic. That has been predicted. But the speed and the fact that he had to reverse, that the Fed had to reverse course, he's going to have to get a pass. Next day, however, here we go, he showed up on 60 Minutes. And there's his quote. Well, I say the main thing to get back on the road to recovery. And I think that can happen relatively soon, likely to happen in the second half of the year. So what ended up happening? People took that as, yay, the economy's going to rebound. And by the way, financial markets skyrocketed. Okay. Oh, well, then just less than 3 weeks later in front of Congress, or they just had a Fed meeting on June 10th. You can see it. Fed officials project no rate increases through the end of 2022. Through the end of, in other words, 18 months from now, they've already told you no increase in interest rates by the Federal Reserve. So in May, we've got an improving economy, and in June 10th, he said, oh, well, we're not going to raise interest rates. So basically, you can see his pickle. He's a rock and a hard place would be an upgrade, right? Because you understand that he's got to walk a very thin line. If I tell you how bad it is, then consumer confidence will decline, and that'll kill an economic recovery. And that would make things worse and worse and worse. So can't really say that, but his actions are, as the entire Federal Reserve, no rate increases. And you can see here, I've pointed this out a couple of weeks ago in a previous edition of this newsletter. A former Fed chair, a former Fed governor, someone who sat on the Board of Governors, was an ex-professor of mine at the University of Chicago. His name is Randy Krosner. And in fact, he published this. He was basically saying, look, we're going to recover, but some of the stuff is never coming back, and our way of life is changed, probably forever. That's it for this edition of the Maximize Your Medicare newsletter. Please go to the website, maximizeyourmedicare.com. You can get this letter right to your inbox. You can watch this YouTube channel, I guess you call it, YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to give it a thumbs up so other people can discover the YouTube channel. Be sure to pick up your copy of Maximize Your Medicare, Amazon.com, your local bookstore. They'll all carry it. If you have questions, you can send me an email, jae@maximizeyourmedicare.com.